All right, good afternoon. Again, I appreciate your patience. We are going to cover the text tool today, but before we do that, as always, little review, right? So where have we come from? So we've gotten into Photoshop. We understand the user interface. We know that the application toolbar is at the top of the screen. The toolbar is on the left-hand side of the screen. Our panels are on the right-hand side of the screen. The canvas is obviously that white square that's in the middle. We talked about two different sets of tools that we can add content to our canvas. We talked about the brush tool and the shape tool. We learned that there's a difference between the two. In the brush tool is a what type of tool? Raster, correct. So that's a raster tool. And at the shape tool is a vector. Thank you. Great, awesome. Okay, so the brush tool is a raster, pixel based. Shapes tool is a vector based, non-pixel type tool. We also got into the zoom and the hand and also the selections, right? We can make selections now, so we can select a range of pixels. Remember, the selection tools do not select pixels that are vector based, only rastered pixels will it select. But we talked about the marquee selections, we talked about the lasso selections, as well as the quick selections. And again, today we're going over the text tool. So here we go. So with the document that you guys had to create today, you notice that I did change it up just a little bit on you, right? So what's the width and height? What's the width and height? What? 8.5 what? Inches. So I did switch it up on you a little bit. So if you kept that as pixels, then you might have a little issues today. So make sure that you go back in and fix that. But yes, your width is 8.5 inches, height is 11 inches. What parameters does this look like? This should look familiar to you. What is that the size of? Yeah, piece of paper. Right. And I think that's probably adequate with what we're working with today, which is text. And then the resolution, of course, is 150. And then our color mode is CMYK. So we know that 150 is the middle mark, right? Like it's not high resolution, but it's certainly not low resolution. Kind of there in the middle. But by looking at the color mode, we know that this document is going to be used for printing, right? It's going to be using ink colors, so it's going to be printed off on something. Very good. All right, we click create, and then we create that document. So for this first part, and again, watch my screen. I'm going to walk you through the tool. Then you can practice. And in fact, you're going to do a lot of practice today because this is the only tool we're covering. And I also want to allow you guys that free time to get more familiar with the tools that I've already taught, because you'll be expected to use that in the next project. Well, I guess your first project, which you guys will begin tomorrow. All right, text tool. The text tool, and it's probably self-explanatory. You could probably figure it out even without me telling you. But that's going to be the T, capital T. It's over on the left-hand side of your toolbar. It's above the black arrow selection tool or the shapes tool. T, text tool. So again, you're just watching my screen. Now, as soon as I select that tool, you should notice that on mine, and if you did it yourself, that's fine as well. But on your screen, my screen, you'll see that the option toolbar has come alive, and now we can see that we can actually change the direction in which the direction in which the text is going, the font style, the subset of that font style, light, oblique, bold, underline, etc. We have the font size, we have the rendering, we also have the alignments, left, center, and right, and then of course we have the color. There's some other things that we'll talk about later, but that's all you need to know for today and tomorrow. And with that tool selected, you'll see that my mouse is now no longer an arrow, right? It's now looks like a cursor, as if I was working in Microsoft Word. And if I click here, watching my screen, if I click here, you'll see that it inputs some dummy text for me. And as I start to type, what's happening? What's happening? They are. You're absolutely right. There are words that are appearing as I'm typing. Where did the words go? off the canvas. So with the text tool, with a simple click, it does allow you to add text, but you have to do what do you think to make that text drop down? Yeah, enter or return, right? So as you start to type and you hit return or enter, it will drop that text down. It's not until after you hit return or enter will that text drop down. So that's one way to add your text. Also, if you noticed, what appeared in my layers panel? New layer, right? So when I click, there's a little check mark. When I hit that check mark there, that accepts the settings. When I come over here, I can look. There's my text layer. How do I know it's a text layer? Well, I get the little T for the logo for text, and then I can also see a little bit of the little parts of that text that are there in that layers panel as well. Okay, so that's one way to add text to your document. Another way is to click and drag your mouse. So if you're watching my screen, you can see as I click and drag, it looks like I'm about to make a selection, and technically I am, but I'm really selecting an area of my document that I want the text to populate. So the second that I release my mouse, it will automatically throw text in there just so that you can see it. And when I start to type, you'll see that the text automatically does what? Automatically drops down. And as I keep typing, what happened? Ran out of room. It stopped. Well, it didn't stop. I'm still typing. The text is still going, but there's nowhere for it to go, so it's hidden. Okay. How do you know if text is hidden? Well, here I'll show you. One, you'll start as you type it, it disappears. But two, there are some visuals to show you this. So I want you to pay notice to these little white boxes surrounding the text box, specifically the one in the bottom right-hand corner. Right now, it's just a white little square. Okay, I call these grippers because this allows you to grip these and move the shape of that item. Okay, but regardless, I want you to pay notice to that. If you're up at the front of the room, you'll see this quicker than those that are in the back, just because it's kind of hard to see. But it's just a white square. As I start to type, what happened to that white square? It changed. What changed? What does it look like now? Yeah, it's kind of hard, but you did see it, right? So now it's a what? Yeah, it's like a little plus sign, or it does look like a little window. Yep, you're right. Right, but it looks like a little plus sign. What happens is these little dotted lines extend past to show that there's additional content in that text box. So watch this. Now all I got to do is just stretch this, and they will fill that area, or stretch it this way. Okay. So nice little visual letting you know that there's extra text inside of that box. Again, at the top of your screen, you can either decline. Try that again. You can either decline or accept those settings, and there's your text. Now, if I need to go back in and re-edit, I'll make sure that I have the text tool selected. I'll click anywhere in or on those text, and you'll see my text box comes back alive. And now I can go in and I can change the parameters of that text box. I can make selections. Remember, if you want to affect it, you have to select it. So as I make a selection, now I can change the settings based on that. I can also change the font style. I can change anything I want. Change the size. Change the alignment, etc. Right? Just by clicking in that text box with the text tool. You have to have the text tool selected. And again, once you're done with that, you'll just click on the little check mark box, and that accepts it. Now, if I need to move it, I'll use the Move tool, shortcut V, which we talked about this earlier. So the Move tool, shortcut V, allows me to grab, and I can now move this around. If I double click inside there with the move tool, you'll see it brings me right back to my text tool. And now I can make these adjustments if I need to or want to. Shortcut V to move back. Oop. Accept. Shortcut V to move back into my move tool. I can move this around. Questions about the text tool? One last little itty bitty thing, and that is the panel for your text, or what they call the character panel. So if you click on window, remember under window, all of your panels are there. So if you don't see a panel that's supposed to be there that you want to work with, you can go to window and then go into your panels. Here they are. And what I want is character. Now I've already done this with my other classes, which is why this is showing up, but you'll probably get something like this, right? Like it'll pop it out to the side. I'm going to pull that off just so that you can see this. So in my character panel, I can do a little bit more editing in that panel. Oof. Losing it there. Sorry. I know that's making everybody motion sickness. Sorry about that. All right, there's my character panel. All right, so here I can change the font style. I can change the spacing in between the lines. This is called leading. We're going to talk about typography later in the year, but this right here is the leading. I can change the kerning as far as the spacing between the characters. I can stretch my letters. I can either width or height. I can add subscripts, postscripts, italicize. I can do all these other things with my text. I can even change the color. That's under the character panel. So it just goes a little deeper than the actual toolbar at the top of your screen. And where I'm going to place this, I'm going to place this grouping with my brushes and brush settings. Brushes and brush settings. Right, so now I have a new grouping: brush settings, brushes, character, and paragraph. So now I can jump in here and do some editing with my text. Now remember, I just updated my workspace, so what do I need to do? Right, I need to save it. So window, workspace, new workspace. I'm going to give it the same name that I'm working with, which is Webster. So new workspace, name it Webster, capital W, W-E-B-S-T-E-R. Save. Yes, I know that I'm replacing it, so yes. And there we go. Now we've updated that workspace. Questions? All right, for the rest of the class period, practice and play. Play and practice. Keep honing that skill, those skill sets of using the brush tool, using the shape tool, using the text tool. That's a brand new skill. So now you should be working with that today at the very least and practicing with it. Look at your layers panel. Are you comfortable with moving those layers around? Are you comfortable with renaming those layers? And if any of that is foreign to you, then you need to ask for help, because your project, which you will start tomorrow, is going to require you to do all of those skill sets. So today's the day that you know, if you need help, ask me. Like, I can't really figure out, I don't remember how to customize the brush. Okay, call me over. I'll help you and we'll figure it out together. Questions, comments, concerns? All right, you guys are off and running.